Hello and very warm welcome to the YouTube channel Dr. Zia Ahmed. Today I'm not going to record any textual or any syllabus oriented thing, but today I'm going to talk generally about reading of the novel because I've seen that our students, especially those students who have qualified and they are about to appear in certain examinations, or they are going to take an interview with the PPSC or with any other institution. At that time, any of the questions which are put by the examiners about the text which they have read or gone through or they are supposed to do so, like a novel, they mostly fail and feel it a very problematic thing how they can answer any of the question out of the text because they have not properly read it. Today I'm going to capture a whole plan how a novel or a book of fiction should be read out in such a way that the students can keep in their mind some of the important aspects of the novel to be discussed, to be put and to be remembered, to be offered in the answer to the questions which are put by the examiners. So, in that context, I have chosen one novel as well, which I shall be putting as a model. And in the same way, what are the important aspects that the novel should be prepared for or remembered for by our students? So, let's proceed. The title of today's lecture, this video lecture is How to Read and Prepare a Novel for Examination and for Interviews. So I hope so that after watching this video, our students will be able to at least read a few of the texts in that way so that they can effectively give the answers to the questions which are put in the examination or which are put in the interviews. So let us have a start and try to see what this video offers to the students. First of all, look at this slide and the second slide of this. Here, the title of this slide is Bakhtin and the Novel. Bakhtin is a big name. Mikhail Bakhtin is a big name in the history of writing novel. He has written his thesis on dialogism, and so his book Dialogism definitely goes to highlight some of the issues of the novel. And if the students know these issues, definitely they would be reading the text of the novel with these points, and so they will be able to remember them as well. For Bakhtin, novel is better than epic because in an epic, the possibilities are limited, and moreover, the difficulty level is very high in an epic, so that is why, according to him, novel is very much important and very much better as compared to the epic poems. The reason is, first of all, carnivalesque aspect of the novel. Novel is like a carnival. There could be different characters, characters belonging to different age groups, different categories of characters, or they can also belong to some different social communities of the society as well. And they all move together. And there is the aspect that in a novel, we can see a king doing the role of a fool or the fool playing the role of the king. This is possible only in a novel. It is not at all possible in the genres like epic poetry, and that is why it has been declared to be a better genre and it has proved itself. So, carnivalesque aspect of the novel is making it more useful text, and that is the point in the 21st century and the end of 20th century that it has proved novel has emerged to be the most acceptable form of the readings or the writings. Moreover, the heteroglossia nature of the novel, that there is all kind of languages which are present, all varieties of language which are present, that can be used inside the novel. For example, if you belong to some rural farming family, your language can be like that. And in the same way, if you belong to some highly cultured and civilized society, your language can be like that. This type of language is only possible inside a novel text of the fiction. That is why heteroglossia aspect makes it a uniquely acceptable form of literature or genre of literature. Moreover, there's a dialogue form inside the novel. The questions are hidden. For example, if someone says that I am really ill today, the next question can be possibly, which is not written in the text, why are you ill? And the answer will be provided by the same text that it is because I have been traveling in the cold season. The next question could be, where was the cold season? And the answer can also be provided in the same way in the text that when I was traveling In the northern areas, it was very highly cold. And the next question can be why I was traveling in those areas. And the answers keep on coming. So, novel's text is written in that way where questions are not visible, but the style is in the same way in a dialogue form. Then, polyphony aspect of the novel is there. Polyphony aspect makes us for us possible that we can have all types of styles of language. For example, if somebody is an old person, the style of language or the spoken way of that person is quite visible in that way. In the same way, if somebody is a child, and if somebody is a lady, and somebody is a mature representative of the government, or somebody is a teacher, everybody can have one's own voice in that novel. This possibility is present inside novel. So these three to four or five aspects of novel are there, which make it something unique, something very much practical. And therefore, my students, the novels should be read by keeping these things in mind: how the carnivalesque aspect is present inside the novel, how heteroglossia is present inside the novel, and what type of dialogue or monologue exists in the novel, and how this polyphony aspect is present in the novel. So, going further, we can further see how these things are present in a novel. For example, when we begin to read a novel, definitely it appears that novel would be very much difficult kind of thing, and it will be a huge book loaded with so many words and so many pages, and one needs to draw back if the story is not that interesting. So therefore, one tries to put the book aside instead of reading it. And here I'm going to suggest to you people a way how one can read the novel very well, and one can find out the requisite information, and one can prepare oneself in order to give the answer to the questions about a novel. So for this purpose, I would highlight that some of the things are there which should be looked at while even before going to the reading each and every page of the novel. So therefore, first of all, what we need to see inside the novel is the characters. We can see the few pages where some names will be present, and these names definitely are that of the names of the characters. We can have an impression just by reading one or two pages who could be possibly the protagonist or the hero of the novel, and then what are the places which are mentioned inside the novel. Sometimes the writers give a glossary or some indication in the form of notes in the end of the book. There, the places the characters are present, and even if they are not, we can go to other sources to find out which characters are present, which places are present. The reading of the first and second pages, or at the maximum first full chapter, goes to show what is possibly the timing of the novel. I mean, which is the time which is being highlighted inside the novel? Is it the era, especially era of the Elizabethan age, or that of the modern scientific age? Or the timing can also be the timing of the year. Maybe it is the January, February, or it is a weather-like timing, or it's a day timing, night timing. All these timings can be found out in the novel just after reading a few pages. We can also see what are the narrators inside the novel. For example, there is only one narrator, or two narrators, or three narrators in the novel. And in the same way, the narrators can also be seen whether the narrator is a child, or it is the writer himself, or it is some woman as the narrator or some man as the narrator. In the same way, it can also be seen whether the narrator is changing or it is not changing, it is simply going the same one. We can also see that these narrators are, you know, the animals, or they can be some human beings, or one can also go for the tones of the narrators. Same is the case with the narrative of the novel. Just a few pages can reveal to us whether the narrative is a linear narrative or it is going to be a non-linear narrative. For example, if we read Arundhati Roy's novel The God of Small Things, the narrative is not linear at all. By linear narrative, I mean the narratives like in the stories of Jane Austen or in the stories of Thomas Hardy. The narrative starts from one point, continues to develop with the passage of time, reaches the peak, and ultimately comes down for the ending of the story. This is not the case sometime, and that is why the narratives can be non-linear and linear as well. We can also go for the styles of the novels. For example, in some of the novels, there is only the narrator is talking in the sense of I. I mean, the first person is the narrator. Then it can be the second person the narrator, as for example, in How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia by Mohsen Hamid, gives the narrator in the form of the second person. Similarly, it could be in the third person. In third person, most of the time, the Victorian or the other classical novels have been, but now it can be in the form, in the pronoun, or in the narration in the first person or in the second person as well. Now, one may look at the structure of the novel as well. I mean, how many chapters possibly are there, and some other things like that can be found out just by opening the book. And similarly, what is the plot, whether there is the subplot as well, two plots or multiple plots are available. So these are the things which should be seen while when we are going through a text, even if we have not read it altogether. Now, before going further, I would see that how we can see all these characters or the places or these points one by one. So let me take you people into these slides now. Now, for the sake of characters, even if you look at the picture, you can see that the picture is showing many types of people: the old man, the young man, the long and short man, the woman, for example, the very old women, young women, and then well-dressed young man. So the multiple type of characters possibly can be there. These characters, therefore, we should try to locate in the reading of the text, or in trying to find out where the novels is presenting to us the characters, how many male characters are there and how many female characters are there. And if these male characters are there, then how many are the older ones, how many are the younger ones, and how many are the children. And same should be exercised with respect to the female characters. We can make a list of female characters and then try to see whether these female characters are old, young, or are in the form of a child, or whatever. Then we can also categorize these characters by looking at the novel, for example, which are major characters, which are minor characters. For example, in the Kamla Shamsi's novel, if we see that, we will be able to find in the Kamla Shamsi's novel, Burnt Shadows, we can see that Hiroko Tanaka is one of the major characters in the novel. There are many other characters, like it is the American friend of Tanaka, then the husband of Tanaka in India, then there is some son of Tanaka. All these are the minor characters as well. But the major story revolves around Hiroko Tanaka. So in that way, the major and minor characters can be differentiated and the list can be made. One can pay more focus on major characters and less focus on the minor characters. Out of all these, one can see who possibly can be the protagonist. For example, in Mohsen Hamid's novel, The Reluctant Fundamentalist, we have number of characters. Like it is Jim also, it is Erica as well, it is the American as well, and then many other characters are present there inside the novel. But the main story is continuously revolving around the character of Genghis Khan. So that is he's the protagonist one. Same could be the case with the antagonist, which may be an opposite character which makes the things go wrong all the time. In the same way, one can find this character as well. So in this way, one protagonist, or maybe sometimes two protagonists, one male, one female, can also be found out and written as a separate note. Then there could be the major female characters, major male characters, and then it can also be seen which character is narrating the story, whether it is just one character, or there are multiple characters, or there are some animal characters also available narrating the story. So these things in the form of characters may be located. And then if we have done so, I mean, if we have located these characters, if we have found out these characters, believe me, half of the novel has been understood, half of the text has been gone through. So knowing of the characters about a story is very much essential. Knowing of the habits, behavior, styles of the characters very much essential, and knowing how and why the writer has taken up these characters, it is very much essential. So after knowing the characters, what next we can do is the time and space setting of the novel. I mean, we can see how many places are present there just by looking at the pages of the novel. And sometimes the chapters are there which are given the name of these places. For example, in the novel The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, we can see that sometime the title of the chapter is Red Deeps, sometime it is Furs, sometime it is other title may be referring sometime to the character, sometime to the places. So the places in the novel can be very easily found out. One needs to remember not only the characters but also the spaces. Timing, as I said already in the beginning of the lecture, that the space and time may be noted. Time should be noted in many ways. Number one, whether it refers to a particular age, maybe it is the colonial age or the post colonial age, or it is the modern era, or it is the postmodern era which it's reflecting. Number two, one needs to see, as far as the century is concerned, whether the year is 2021 or it is 2001 or it is going to be 1990s. Then one should see also the timing with respect to the weather conditions, whether it is the summer season or the winter season or any other season being described. So, in one way or the other, one needs to understand the timing, and timing should also be seen with respect to the age, with respect to the similarities which are existing in the age, the current age, of course, and the age about which the novel is. And one can also imagine about the geographical realities. For example, in many of the novels, the discoveries of the age, or one can see that the developments of the age are described about. For example, if we go back to the reluctant fundamentalist, we can see many of the places which are relevant to USA, and the things which are developing with respect to USA and the 9/11 are talked about in many of the stories. So therefore, the similarities and the reflection of the places and the timing of the things should be mentioned, should be found out in the novel and remembered as well. So place and time becomes very much important. Age and time become very much important in respect to the novel. Then one should be seeing also whether it is one story or it is the number of stories which are going on. For example, in How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia by Mohsen Hamid, we can see the story of the husband, we can see the story of the parents, we can see the story of the wife, we can see the story of the pretty girl, as the names are not there in this novel, so that is why one cannot say with the names, one can say with the role the characters are performing there. This thing can be taken as an example from any other novel as well. One needs to see whether the stories are there or it is just the one story. So in the same way, one may be looking at the main action, the place of the main action which is taking place, which is the place where the main action is going on. And in the same way, how many comments from the side of the writer come in the story, whether the story is going on or the writer stops and continues to give his own comments about the things. For example, if we go back to the beginning of the novel in 18th century, where Tom Jones, or we have Joseph Andrews by Henry Fielding, in these novels, we see that the novelist occasionally stops the story and begins giving the comments from his own side. We can see in many other novels as well, even in the classic Russian novels, we have the comments of the writer, as Shakespeare would give the comments in the dramas, but these comments are in the form of a character speaking. In case of novels, the writer gives the comments, paragraphs of comments available in the novel are there. So, what are the comments and where these are given and what context are given, the reader may be trying to find out these things as well. And after that, with respect to time and space, we need to look at the interconnectedness of the story with the past stories. I mean, if there is any kind of references which relate it to the past stories also, which try to establish its space among the histories or the stories of the past time as well. So in this way, time and space has become very much important in the novel, and that should be taken care of. And in the same way, I suggest that some of the styles should also be seen even before reading. For example, trying to find out who is narrator. Is it just a woman or a man? It's child, as in case of Pepsi Sidhwa's novel Ice Candyman, or it is the case in case of Exit West. We have the narrator going on. The protagonist is the narrator, most of the time telling the story. But in case of Red Birds, for example, the story is told by multiple narrators, and whether the narrative is going to be linear or non-linear, it is in the form of recalling back of the memory, or it is the technique of stream of consciousness used there. And after that, one may be able to find about the devices like humor, irony, and satire, and the literariness the forms of writing literature, the imagery that has been used may be found out. And what about the language? Is it really the post-colonial language? It's the British original language, it is the American English, or it is the Australian or Canadian English that is described there. These things should be noted in order to understand the novel as good as possible. Allegorical styles may also be followed by some of the writers. For example, Jonathan Swift, in his novel Gulliver's Travels, uses this allegorical technique, and same can be termed about the post-colonial novels because they are mostly allegorical representation of their age. So some of the symbols may be present in the novels, like in the novel Red Birds, the red bird itself is a symbol of American power and heritage, nationalism, and loyalty as well. Imagery could also be present there in the form of various things, and then one should see what is the type of propagation being made by the writer in order to make realize what he wants to say. So these things should also be noted even before reading the text. First few pages, a few of the pages may be helping the reader to find out these things. The styles, therefore, are very much important, and then comes the structure of the novel. I mean, the plot of the novel. One can see very roughly, looking at the introductory pages, how many pages in total the novel has, how many lines are used by the writer on one page, and then what is the chapterization of the novel. I mean, how many chapters, whether the chapters are having numbers only or the chapters are having symbolical words, as is the case with the chapters written by Arundhati Roy in her novel The God of Small Things. Sometimes it is the Cochin kangaroos, sometimes it is the big men, the laltan, small men, the agarbatti. These are the type of the titles of the chapters. And then it can also be seen whether the chapters are just having the names of the characters or the names of the narrators. What's the type of dialogue going on inside the novel? Some of the dialogues may be memorized by the students, and then whether it is a monologue or it has certain monologues inside the text, or they should be marked out. And similarly, soliloquies may be marked out, which is spoken by the characters and remembered specially. Then the commentaries from the side of the writer, and of course the description of the things or the scenes which the writer would like to make. Sometimes these descriptions are given in the beginning of the chapter. So the first paragraph of every page of every chapter can be seen in order to find out what are the descriptions of the scene. These descriptions can be not only about the scene, but also it can be about the characters, and from there, some points may be prepared about the characters, how it is described by the writer. And continuing with that, some of the, you see, what I'm going to suggest here, these are some of the points that one should keep in mind. But the big question will be how one can do this, how one can, without reading the whole text of the novel, if the time is short, if the you have to go through many of the novels, and if you are not really the teacher and students of fiction or literature, and you just need to have a view of the things which are said in the novel, what things should be done by the reader. And here I'm going to suggest you people some of the things. For example, I have taken these things in the reading techniques. Look at the picture, how diligently the novel is being read, the notes are being prepared, and then colored things are there in order to remember all that. Now, what one can do, there is one reading technique, SQ3R, skimming and scanning. Now, SQ3R is the same one what one should do. For example, first looking at the title, then the writer, and after that, the index of the pages in the chapters, and then going from from one chapter to the other very speedily and fastly, and trying to see what is written in the first paragraph of the chapter, then the last paragraph of the chapter, and sometimes going through Z technique of reading and then recalling and putting a question and asking the things what are. So SQ3R technique can be used in order to find out how one should read the text of a novel without going through the 100% reading of the novel. Then skimming and scanning, for example, if we need to find out the gist of a page, we can go through it quickly and find out what the page is saying in one sentence or the other. Same is the case with scanning. I mean, without reading, we may look at some of the pages and find out the name of the places, the name of the characters, or some images formed there that can help us go through quickly in one page of the novel. One should read the full introduction of a novel, which may be provided sometime by other writers and sometime by the writer himself, what the novel is going to be. Chapter introductions and the ends should be read out instead of reading the whole chapter to have a quick view what the chapter is about. The endings of the chapter are very important because there sometimes the writer would leave the clue that what has happened and what's going to happen in the next chapter. But overall, in order to exercise all these things, one should always have a question why one is reading the novel. For example, if on the very beginning I have a question that I need to read the first page to find out the places or the space or the timing, then I shall look for these information instead of going into the whole story. And that will provide me a clue very quickly. If I just go through the page without having any question, definitely it will take a long time. Similarly, if I open one page and I want to find what's happening with the protagonist, I will try to see that thing. And if in one page I just have a question, I need to know about the heroine of the novel, in the same way, we will be able to find the same things very quickly. So always ask a question to yourself before reading any page of the novel or any book of fiction or literature. And after these reading techniques, I am going to give you one model reading. For example, if I have to read the novel Redbirds by Muhammad Hanif, the very first thing I would do is to find out what is redbird. And I, according to my research, I found out that redbird is very much commonly available in South America and sometimes in some places of North America as well. The color of the bird is sometimes fully red and sometimes it is not. This bird in certain states is a national bird, symbol of loyalty, symbol of bravery, symbol of adventure. And if I apply these meanings to the novel, I can easily understand that American hegemonic techniques are reflected by the title Red Birds by Hanif Muhammad. And then I should quickly see, I found out that the chapter first is beginning with the one narrator, the second is beginning with the other narrative, and then the stories intermingle with each other, and that is why I quickly find out that the technique is non-linear, and so it will be very difficult to form a one story model. We will be finding out number of stories there. The third thing which I found out after finding out a few chapters, that the narrator is not one. There are many narrators, like it is Mutt sometime, Mutt the dog inside the story, then it's Momo, the young boy, and Ellie, this most confusing character, and then is the multiple narrator system has been adopted. And from reading a few chapters, I could find out, by few chapters, I mean a few pages actually, that the novel is about the desert, and that desert also describes a village, and the whole environment goes to suggest the Middle East about which the story is going to be. I find some names there like USA, New Jersey, and Hangar. So these things can be described with reference to USA, and the description and again occurs about the bombing by one plane and about the one plane falling down, and the preparation is mostly said about the sophisticated machines and war machines of USA. So definitely war on terror and the post 9/11 situation is described. And when I see that the people in the East are there, some people are condemning the activity of the USA, and the other people are liking it actually. Because if these things happen, they say when they fall the bombs, and later on they send the food as well. So in that way, some people really want it because free food, packed food is available. Sometimes the other living materials are available. So in that way, imperialism and then colonialism and offshoots of colonialism, post-colonialism, and modern Oriental philosophies can be quickly discovered. So this thing I have done without going through the novels, without reading all the novels, just a few pages, a few details about the novel has revealed to me all that. So you people can also do the same thing and reach the important information which can be possibly put by the examiner or the interviewer, and you can have an answer even if you have been unable to read the whole novel. I don't suggest that one should not read the whole novel. I suggest that all text should be read out. But sometimes it's not possible because of lack of time, because you're not the students of literature, or you have some quick go through purpose to find out how you can prepare one novel. And possibly, especially in this world when we have novels and novels and novels, one cannot comprehend all the text. But this is will be the very good technique if you are trying to follow this reading model. And going further with that, according to my reading, I was able to find out that there are many types of characters. Like Mutt is one character, it's a dog. Momo, again, the young boy. The mom has its own psychological problem. The father is a divided man, and then one doctor is there, and that doctor is having the solution of everything on his motorbike. He is attaching number of things, and he is habitual of finding out the obsolete and the discarded things. Well, Ellie, the most confusing character, as I said, because one is Ali, who is lost, but another character is Ellie. It's the American pronunciation and style of speaking of Ali, and that person is a pilot, and therefore he comes in the same home where Ali, the real character, is expected to come back, and this ghost of the same Ali comes as well. So one Ali is replaced by that, and therefore this is the most interesting character. Lady Flower Party, again another interesting character. She is the person who is called Flower Body, but there is nothing which may be called flower about her. However, she's young and beautiful, and she is composing the history of and the reflection of the people of Middle East when the bombs are on them and war or terrorism is on them, and what is the reflection of these people about the American aid which is coming to them. And then I could find that Ali is actually the pilot, and other pilots and the life of the pilots have also been found out just in the beginning pages. And that goes to show that if pilot is there, definitely there could be some plane as well. And the pilot in difficult situation, not in good situation, that goes to show that the pilot's plane has fallen down. Falling off the plane goes to show that it was on some war mission, and then it has gone down, and now the difficulties would be there. So these things have been quickly found out about the characters. Then some of the supernatural things are present there. For example, red birds are not visible in the pages of the novel in the space where it is described, because it's a total desert which is told to us. But the ghosts of the red birds can be seen, and these red birds appear at that time when some blood is shed. So that is related directly to the context of USA war on terror and 9/11. Again, we have a knife which is mentioned in the few chapters, middle of the few chapters. That knife is made up of the sword which is present with the mom, and that mom is keeping for a very long time. Even at that time, when she doesn't have the salt to be put into her curries, still she's maintaining to have this knife, and she takes this knife to kill some of the people who have possibly abducted her son Ali, and she's going to rescue. In this novel, rescue is the main issue. Number one is the rescue of Ali. Number two is the rescue of the pilot, which is never made. Number three is the rescue of the honor, of the trade, of things which are related to war. Then, very important symbol is the jeep. Cherokee jeep is used by Momo, and it travels very hard. It has a voice. It eats up petrol. All these things are technologically related to it. And then I also found out that one place, hangar, which is I think a type of cantonment of the army which came in the desert, used the place, and then they left the things abandoned, and that is the place hangar. And I also can see that nowhere in the novel the use of cell phones has been talked about, even when it was so much necessary. We can see some of the aeroplanes flying over the desert, throwing their loads down, and that is why we use the American load offers. This load can be that of the bombs as well, and this load can be that of the food and usable clothing and other materials as well. So that is the kind of things which can be quickly found out even after looking at the pages of the novel, and finding out what the novel is about, finding out the names of the things. One is able to have an understanding even if one is not reading all the pages of the novel. So that supernatural element is present there. Some of the groundedness, why the novel is written, what is the thing which the writer wants to bring forward. Even after not reading this novel, I can see that The novel is about American hegemony and the hegemonic techniques of the novel, of the American people, and all over the world as well. And the same way, I can see that the researches can be made on the Orientalist or Orientals. Like Lady Flowerbody is researching about the responses of the people in the East or Middle East. So that is the study reflecting back to the studies made by the university people of the Western universities. They came to Middle East and had certain materials with which the assumptions were there, which provided material for the very famous book that is Orientalism by Edward Said as well. Concept of Janissaries can also be taken here, as the concept of Janissary was present in the novel The Reluctant Fundamentalist also. The Janissaries were the people, young people who were abducted from Christian lands by the Turks, Muslim Turks, and they brought them, taught them what? That they should go back to their Christian lands and provide them information. Here in the Reluctant Fundamentalist also, Genghis Khan, who was taught and who was brought up, and after that he was sent back to Pakistan. He may not be playing the role of Janissary 100%. This is not the controversial thing here. Here I can see that Ali, who was abducted, and again we have one Ali who comes as a pilot. He is 100% brainwashed and has everything in him which is American, not the Middle Eastern, though very much doubt is there again and again that he's the same Ali whose search is present here in throughout the novel. The medievalism of the Middle East is provided. One can look at the desert, one can look at the kind of absence of roads and powerful electricity. One can see the modern gadgetry absence. One can see that Middle East is still standing on the medievalism in the deserts. And though the people have the information that things are there, but the things are in a very precarious condition. Orientals are preparing themselves in order to fight back, in order to rescue Ali, in order to find and visit Hangar. They are not so much fearful of the Western forces, they are ready to fight it as well. Even the mom is fighting with the salt knife, otherwise seen as a big ridiculousness that how can one can find with the salt knife. So in that way, the concept of re-Orientalism or new Orientalism is quite visibly present there. War brings destruction. Angar itself is the symbol of destruction of the American forces and the losses which they have entertained. Then the significance of the food to be provided to the people who come to the house of Momo and Mother. And similarly, the food becomes very much important at that time when people wait for the food to be dropped by the American aeroplanes. First they drop the bombs and then they drop the food. Ultimately, everywhere chaos is present because the novel, the ending chapters end in 100% chaos. Nothing is achieved. Red birds appear and disappear. Ali's ghost is only present, and other people's ghosts are only present. In reality, no one is there, and the search of the pilot for his people also goes wasted because only ghosts are present. And in this way, nothing is achieved by any character. All the things go in such a situation that no one is able to find the targeted aim. So that is why the end of the novel is a chaotic end. There is nothing solid, there is nothing achieved, nothing is solved. All destruction remains the destruction. So in that way, without reading even the novel, one can find out what are the things which have been grounded inside the novel. What was said in the very first page has also been said in the remaining pages of the novel. Some of the main signals of the novel which should be remembered by us is the style of the novel, language of the novel, allegorical novel, irony and humor if it is present anywhere, one may be trying to find out. Symbol of red birds may be understood in a hangar as well. Desert imagery has been used and these things are present all the time in our mind. Powerful flying machines too. These can be the topic of questions in the tests, written tests, and the topic of questions also to be put by the examiners in the examination and interviews, or at least one can take without regarding these things what one should remember. These are the things which one can remember, and if you keep these things in mind, you can go and enter into the text as well. If you enter into text with these signals, with these questions, definitely one can have more interesting reading and one can make more interesting notes about the novel, and novel can be understood very well. So this was the novel taken as a kind of you see, as a kind of thing which is a model reading, possibly maybe of some use for some of you. So that was the whole program of today, a kind of discussion on the novel Redbird and the techniques which can be used in order to understand the novel, even if one is unable to read it fully, and especially these techniques should be used to take notes in order to prepare for the examinations. Maybe this may be helpful for the common students and readers of the novel, especially useful for those people who want to prepare for competitive examinations. These things and this model can be applied on many other texts as well. Hopefully, this is very helpful for some of the people and may not be that helpful for some people. There is room always in order to improve the things, but I think a type of contribution has been done by me as well. I would surely suggest that if you like this, if you have understood something, do not fail to hit the subscribe button and give your comments also on this video. And with this, everything is going to end and stop here for today. Hopefully to see you in some next video. Thank you very much.